All aboard! Next stop, Creep Central Station. Please have all tickets ready and keep all limbs in the train at all times. It's gonna be a scary one. I work in a dementia ward. The patient in room D1 keeps calling for help. By Snape Lapper. I'm a 20-year-old college student and I work part-time at a nursing home every other weekend or whenever I have breaks. During Christmas break this year, though, I basically live there. We were short-staffed, and since I was already home, I worked almost every day. I work in the department for patients with dementia. It's small, 7 patients total. The rooms are labeled D1 through D8. The room D2 is always empty. Most people who have never worked in dementia care imagine it as quiet and sad. It's not. It's loud. It's repetitive. It's alarms going off for no reason, the same questions every 2 minutes, and the same paths walked over and over, like grooves worn into the floor. D1 was the most difficult room. The woman there had advanced dementia and a reputation. She was aggressive. She threw drinks, she scratched, hit, and pulled hair. When she could still walk, she'd corner staff and scream inches from their face. As her condition worsened, the anger stayed, even when her body didn't cooperate anymore. By the time I worked my last shift before Christmas, she was bedbound. She'd stopped eating, she refused medication, she couldn't sit up on her own. But somehow, she still had the strength to yank the call alarm over and over, screaming, "Hello, hello," even when someone was already standing right next to her. No one liked going into D1, so we always rotated whenever her alarm went off. I was working an evening shift 2 days before Christmas, and just before my shift ended, her alarm blared again. I remember being annoyed. I remember thinking about getting home, about Christmas lights, warm food, family, and not hearing her voice echo down the hallway. I went in anyway. She said she was thirsty. She said she couldn't lift the cup. Her hand shook so badly the water sloshed over the edge. I had to spoon feed her, one careful sip at a time. She kept stopping me to ask where she was. She told me I was incompetent, that I was a waste of space, that someone else should be helping her. It didn't really bother me. You learn not to take things personally. When I finished, I told her she should save her strength. She needed to focus on getting better. And then, I don't know why, but I said it. I told her she'd be home for Christmas Day. She stared at me for a long time after that, longer than usual. Then she smiled in a way that didn't reach her eyes and said very quietly, "You don't know that." "I promise," I said. Then I left. I had Christmas off. When I came back, the sign on her door was gone. If you work in a place like this, you're familiar with that sign. Name, date of birth, allergies. When it's gone, the room is empty, or about to be. She had died on Christmas Day. No one made a big deal of it. We go through a lot of patients. Advanced dementia doesn't give you long timelines. But the department has a reputation. Even before this, people joked about it being haunted. Most of us on staff have heard footsteps at night when everyone is asleep, and no floor alarms have gone off. Shoes on linoleum, slow, deliberate, dragging one heavy foot after another. One of my first shifts after Christmas, a colleague pulled me aside. She'd been handing out medication during lunch, and she swore she heard a voice yelling, "Hello, hello," from D1. When she went to check, the room was empty. It was her voice, she said. We tried laughing it off, but it felt uneasy for the rest of my shift. Our patients hallucinate, they have bad hearing, they talk in their sleep, and they sleep a lot. Who are we supposed to believe? One patient in D8 has very poor hearing and often misunderstands what's said to him. He usually asks us to repeat ourselves, leaning forward with his hands cupped to his ear. A week after Christmas, he started doing the opposite. He'd answer questions we hadn't asked. I'd walk into his room and he'd say, "Yes, I heard you," before I spoke. When I asked who he was talking to, he looked confused and said, "The woman down the hall. She keeps asking for help." Something similar happened with another patient, D5, who suffers from visual hallucinations, in addition to her dementia. She often sees animals that aren't there. Cats, birds. Once a horse was standing halfway inside her room. We're trained not to correct her, only to reassure her. But after Christmas, her hallucinations changed. She stopped mentioning animals altogether. Instead, she started asking why a thin lady kept standing in her doorway. She said the woman never came in all the way. Just stood there, watching, waiting for someone to answer her. Room D7 is on the opposite end. That patient has epilepsy and dementia so advanced that she mostly just repeats words and phrases. She used to own a farm, and whatever part of her brain remembers that has kept her body strong. She wanders constantly. Because of that, she has her own locked wing so she doesn't scare the other patients. Someone has to be with her at all times while she's awake. We rotate 1 hour each. After D1 passed, I heard from the night shift staff that D7 had an incident. Because of her wandering, she has a heat detecting alarm at night so we can see when she moves. That night, the alarm went off due to dramatic shaking. Worried she might be having an epileptic episode, the staff rushed to her room. They found her shaking violently, making strange noises, flinging her arms and legs. But she wasn't having an episode. As soon as the lights were turned on, she got up and started wandering aimlessly around the staff. She was repeating the same phrase over and over. "She's so cold. She's so cold." I tried to make sense of it. We work with patients with dementia. Of course they say strange things. Of course patterns appear when you're tired and looking for them. Still, I couldn't stop thinking about how specific it was. None of our patients had ever complained about anything like that before. A few nights after Christmas, I had the late rotation with her. I was relieved because compared to her usual wandering and tinkering, she was sleepy and calm. She was in bed watching TV. I had just changed her diaper in the bathroom connected to her room. When I finished, I turned off the bathroom light and slid the door almost all the way shut. Not fully closed, just enough so the room stayed dim. She wouldn't feel tempted to get up and wander. I took out the trash, then I came back and sat in the chair facing the TV. From that chair, you can see straight into the bathroom through the gap in the door. At first, nothing felt wrong. The TV murmured. She repeated a word under her breath, something meaningless. I let myself relax and watch the screen. Then I realized how quiet the bathroom was. Not empty quiet, heavy quiet. Like a cold, clear fog had settled there and was slowly seeping out, like someone holding their breath. I looked into the darkness and felt it immediately. That sense that someone is there, even when you can't see them. The air felt wrong, thick, like the moment before a storm breaks. I thought I heard breathing, slow, strained, wet, like someone forcing air through a chest that didn't want to cooperate anymore. My skin prickled. Before I could tell myself I was being stupid, the patient in the bed turned her head. She wasn't looking at the TV anymore. She was staring directly into the bathroom. She didn't move. She didn't try to get up. That alone was wrong. When she looks somewhere, it's usually because she wants to go there. She rocks, swings her legs, and reaches. This time, she just stared. The breathing got louder. Then I heard a voice. "You're doing it wrong." It came from the bathroom. Weak, familiar, mean. My stomach dropped. I knew that voice. I'd heard it call me useless. I'd heard it complain about the water being too warm, calling me stupid and ugly. "You always were incompetent," it whispered. "Waste of space." The patient in the bed began shifting, murmuring, not a sound she usually makes, a sound of fear. She pulled the blanket up to her chin and kept staring. I wanted to run. I wanted to turn on the light. I wanted to call someone. Instead, I sat frozen, staring into the dark as the outline of a shape slowly resolved. A hunched figure, thin, wrongly still. I could just make out a face. It was D1. Her mouth was open, like she was still trying to breathe. Her eyes were fixed on me, full of the same sharp, knowing anger she had when she was alive. "Hello?" she rasped. "Hello?" The call alarm in D1's empty room went off. The sound snapped me out of it. The TV flickered. I looked away for just a moment, and when I looked back, the bathroom was empty. Truly empty. Silent. Dark. The patient in the bed was in a daze, staring into the bathroom. She couldn't explain what she saw. She just kept switching her gaze between me and the dark doorway, repeating the same phrase. "I don't want to. I don't want to." I still work there. I still hear footsteps at night. And when a patient with dementia tells me there's someone in their room, I always believe them. I just received a $15,000 fine from my HOA for being ugly, by DavidHerick. I think I need to leave, but the gates are locked. Maybe you know the feeling. That mixture of pride and panic when you finally sign the deed to your own home. Not just any home, but the house. The one that screams to the world, and specifically to your jealous relatives, that you have won at life. The Golden Reserve isn't just a gated community, it's an ecosystem. 5-meter walls topped with electric fencing, armored guard posts, exotic animals roaming free on cobblestone streets, and a silence. A silence that cost $3 million. I'm a software designer. My wife, Amanda, is an architect. We scraped together every penny for 10 years. We sold our downtown apartment, sold our car, took out loans. We hanged ourselves with 30 years of debt, but we did it. We bought a house 42. The realtor, a woman named Patricia, whose skin was pulled so tight I don't think she could physically blink, handed us the keys and a thick book bound in white leather. "The Manual of Harmony," she said, smiling only with her mouth. "Our community Bible. Read it carefully. The Homeowners Association is exacting. But that's what maintains the property value, isn't it?" I laughed. I thought it was standard bureaucracy. No noise after 10 p.m. Pick up the dog poop. I was wrong. The first week was a dream. Our neighbors were polite, if distant. Everyone looked like they had walked out of a margarine commercial. Light linen clothes, white teeth, upright posture. No one ran, no one shouted. Even the children played on the swings in silence, oscillating in perfect synchronization. The first fine arrived on the Monday of our second week. A thick, cream-colored envelope slid under the door. I opened it, expecting a welcome note. It was a citation. Infraction 1, visual dissonance. Vehicle, description. The vehicle parked in the driveway, 2018 Honda Civic Silver, reflects sunlight at a 45-degree angle that dazzles the facade of House 43. Furthermore, the model is considered aesthetically obsolete for the reserve standards. Penalty, $2,500. I was furious. "Aesthetically obsolete?" I yelled in the kitchen. "The car is new! It's paid off!" Amanda, who was reading the Manual of Harmony at the table, didn't look up. "Lucas, page 120 says cars over 3 years old must be kept covered or in the closed garage. You left it on the ramp." "This is ridiculous!" "Just pay it, honey. Let's not start a fight right at the beginning. We want to make friends, remember? The networking here is important." I swallowed my pride and paid. I hid the car. I thought that would be the end of it. But the pursuit of harmony is insatiable. 3 days later, the second fine arrived. Infraction 2, biological noise pollution. Description: the resident of Unit 42, Lucas M., was heard sneezing 3 consecutive times in the front garden at 8:15 a.m. The sound exceeded the 40 decibel permitted for bodily fluids in common areas. Penalty, $1,200. Note: we recommend nasal suppressors or containment therapy. "Are they monitoring me?" I whispered, staring at the perfect windows of the house next door. The white linen curtains were motionless. Amanda was different, too. She'd cut her hair, a rigid, geometric bob, identical to the neighbors across the street. Mrs. Goudeau's. "You sneeze too loudly, Lucas," she said, her voice far too calm. "It's vulgar. Try to be more discreet. People here value control." I started to feel like I was going crazy. I walked down the street, glaring at the cameras hidden in the Victorian lampposts. I noticed things I hadn't seen before. The community gardener. He was trimming the grass with hand scissors. Blade by blade. He was sweating, but his face held no expression. When I got close, I saw the scars behind his ears. Fresh scars, as if the skin had been pulled back and stapled. And the residents? They were too perfect. No acne, no sunspots. No one was fat, no one was too thin. Everyone had the same moderate athletic silhouette, and everyone smiled all the time. The third fine arrived on Friday. This one made my blood run cold. It wasn't an envelope, it was a visit. The doorbell rang at 7 p.m. It was Mr. Alencar, the president of the association. A tall, gray-haired man wearing a suit that looked tailored for a mannequin, not a human. His skin was tan, but had a waxy texture. Behind him were 2 enormous security guards wearing sunglasses at night. "Good evening, neighbor Lucas," Alencar said. His smile revealed teeth that were too white, too rectangular, piano keys. Good evening. Is there a problem? We've received some notifications of visual discomfort. Visual discomfort? I mowed the lawn. I washed the sidewalk. It's not about the house, Lucas. It's about you. He handed me a tablet. On the screen was a photo of me taken while I was getting the mail. There were red circles drawn on my face. A circle on my nose, which is slightly crooked. Broke it playing soccer when I was 15. A circle on my left ear, which sticks out a bit more than the right. And a large circle around my mouth. What is this? I asked, my stomach churning. Infraction 5. Severe facial asymmetry. Alencar read, as if it were a death sentence. Your deviated septum projects an irregular shadow on the neoclassical architecture of your entryway. And your crossbite? Well, frankly, Lucas, when you smile, the left side of your lip rises 2 millimeters less than the right. It generates subconscious anxiety in other residents. It breaks the harmony. I laughed, a nervous, shocked laugh. You guys are joking, right? Is this a prank show? Alencar didn't laugh. The guards took a step forward. The fine is $5,000 daily until the irregularity is corrected. Corrected? How am I supposed to correct my face? The association has a partner clinic in the basement of the central club. Dr. Muhaz is a specialist in resident standardization. He can break and realign your jaw and perform the rhinoplasty in a single afternoon. We offer payment plans on your HOA fees. I slammed the door in his face. I locked the deadbolt. I turned to Amanda. We're leaving, now. Put the house up for sale. Screw the money. These guys are psychopaths. Amanda was sitting on the sofa, filing her nails. No, not her nails. Her fingertips. There was blood on the file. She was grinding down the skin and flesh to make her fingers thinner. Point here. Amanda! She looked at me. Her eyes glazed over. The manual says female fingers must have a grade 4 taper, Lucas. My fingers were too thick. They clashed. I snatched the file from her hand. You're insane! We're getting out of here! We can't, she said calmly, sucking the blood from her finger. The cancellation fee is 40% of the property value, and we've spent everything. If we leave, we'll be bankrupt. We'll live in the slums, Lucas. Do you want to be poor again? Do you want to take the bus? She grabbed my arm. Her strength was surprising. Do the surgery, honey. It's just a nose. It's just a jawbone. For our future. For our status. I spent the night locked in the guest room. I searched the internet for the Golden Reserve. Nothing. No complaints on consumer sites. No news articles. Just photos from social columns. Photos of parties in the community. I zoomed in on the photos. All the residents had the same nose, the same chin, the same forehead. I spent the night locked in the guest room. I searched the internet for the Golden Reserve. Nothing. No complaints on consumer sites. No news articles. Just photos from social columns. Photos of parties in the community. I zoomed in on the photos. All the residents had the same nose, same chin, same forehead height. They were clones. No, not clones. They were works sculpted by the same artist. And I realized something worse. In some older photos from 5 years ago, the residents looked different. There was a heavyset man, a bald man, but in recent photos, those people weren't there anymore. Or rather, they were, but transformed. The next morning, I tried to leave. I took the car, I drove to the main gate. It didn't open. The doorman, a man with a face so immobile it looked like a silicone mask, stepped out of the booth. Good morning, Mr. Lucas. You have administrative pendencies. The system automatically blocks exit. Open this damn gate or I'll ram it. That would trigger infraction 09, damage to common property. The punishment is the surgical removal of a non-vital limb. He said it with the casual tone of someone discussing the weather. I reversed. I went back to the house. I needed a plan. Jump the wall? Impossible. Electric fence and cameras every meter. The forest in the back? Walled off too. I entered the house. Amanda wasn't there. There was a note on the marble table. Went to the central club. Dr. Muhan said he can fix my earlobes today. They were too saggy. See you at dinner. Think about the surgery, love. Harmony is peace. I stood alone in my $3 million house. The silence was absolute, until I heard a noise. It was coming from the neighbor, house 43. I went to the backyard and peeked through the hedge, which was trimmed with millimeter precision. A neighbor, Mr. Guzma, was in the pool, but he wasn't swimming. He was floating, face down. The water was red. My God, he killed himself, I thought. I jumped the fence. I needed to see. Maybe this was my chance to call the police, to create a scandal that would force the gates open. I ran to the pool. I turned Mr. Guzma's body over. He wasn't dead. He was faceless. The skin of his face had been surgically removed. There were bandages soaked in blood where his cheeks should have been. The nose was broken open, with metal pins exposed. He opened his eyes, which currently had no eyelids. He tried to speak, but his mouth was stitched at the corners to create an eternal smile. Harmony, he gurgled. And then, the man pointed to the back door of his house. I saw his wife coming out. She was perfect. White dress, sun hat, with a scalpel in one hand and a martini in the other. "Oh, neighbor," she said, smiling at me. "Roberto was just draining the swelling. The recovery is painful, but it's worth it. He had a double chin, you know. It was so middle class." I backed away, stumbling on the grass. "You people are sick." "We are the elite, darling," she replied, taking a sip of her martini. "The disease is imperfection. The disease is being common. Do you think we reach the top by being ourselves? No one likes ourselves. We sculpt ourselves to be what the world wants to see." I ran back to my house, locked everything, grabbed my cell phone. No signal. Of course, they had jammers. The landline internet worked, but only approved sites. Vogue, Forbes, the community pool. Night fell. I saw the lights of the central club turn on at the top of the hill, and I began to hear the sound. It wasn't music. It was the sound of saws, bone saws, but muffled by classical music. Vivaldi playing loudly from the street speakers, covering the screams. The door to my house opened. I had locked it. They had the master keys. Alan Carr entered. Behind him, 2 nurses pushing a gurney, and Amanda. Amanda had her head bandaged. There were bloodstains over her ears. She was smiling, heavily sedated. "It's quick, Lucas," she said, drooling slightly. "Mr. Muhans is an artist." I tried to run to the kitchen to grab a knife. The nurses were faster. I felt the needle in my neck. The world spun and went dark. I woke up in a white room, the smell of alcohol and lavender. I tried to speak. I couldn't. My jaw was wired shut. I raised my hand to my face. There was a cast on my nose, stitches in my cheeks. Alan Carr was sitting by the bed, reading the Financial Times. "You're awake, champ," he said, folding the newspaper. "The surgery was a success. We had to file down the jawbone quite a bit. You had a very proletarian bone structure. But now you have a profile of a real person." He handed me a mirror. I looked. The face staring back wasn't mine. It was beautiful, symmetrical, perfect, and completely empty. My eyes, once expressive, now looked dead, stretched by unnecessary facelift. My smile, which I couldn't undo because of the stitches, was permanent. I looked like an Instagram filter that had gained life and nightmares. "The bill came to $45,000, Alan Carr said. "But since you lack liquidity, we made a deal with your wife." "What?" I tried to speak through clenched teeth. "Amanda agreed to donate surplus materials." "What did you do to her?" "Oh, she's fine, but to pay for your surgery and the overdue fine, she donated a kidney, half her liver, and her corneas. After all, who needs perfect vision when you live in paradise? She'll be receiving sapphire glass eyes. Very cheech. Aesthetics over function, Lucas. Always." He stood up and patted my shoulder. "Welcome, officially. Sunday's barbecue is at my house. Bring your wife." Alan Carr left. I was alone. I looked in the mirror again. I tried to cry, but I couldn't. Dr. Muhans had removed my tear ducts. He said crying makes the eyes puffy and red. And in the Golden Reserve, red eyes are type 4 infraction. Fine of $800. I got out of bed, adjusted my silk pajamas, looked at my reflection. I am handsome. I am rich. I live in the best place in the world. Smiled at the mirror, not because I wanted to, but because I no longer have a choice. Harmony hurts, but ugliness is unforgivable. If you drive past the Golden Reserve and see one of us waving, wave back, and look closely. If we seem too happy, if we seem too perfect, it's because our screams are cut out along with our skin. Now, if you'll excuse me, I have to go. A new fine just arrived. It seems my blood isn't blue enough. They suggested a total transfusion by Friday. I think I'll accept. After all, I don't want to be evicted. Now I see. The world out there is just so ugly.